Our next performer, she's going to be here telling you a story from her childhood. She is a very good friend of mine, one of my first friends that I made here, and she's a very, very fun person. Please welcome Ellen Gray.
Hey there. Great to see so many people out here. So, we all know that science is all about observation. But sometimes what we observe in our experiments are not exactly what we were expecting to observe in the first place. And I learned about observation from my mom. And when I was in college, she started taking photography and getting into nature photography and taking photographs of birds. And she would send me 10 to 15 pictures of birds a week. And there'd be like the marsh with birds in it. And then there'd be the backyard with birds in it, and then there'd be a pile of rocks with birds in it. Of course, I was a geology major, so I was actually more interested in the rocks than the birds. So I actually ended up telling her, quit with the birds, just send me the pictures of the rocks. So the other thing is, when you look at birds, you start to see them everywhere. So she'd pick me up from the airport, she'd be driving down the highway, and then she'd start to lean forward a little bit, and then she'd say, look, there's a red-tailed hawk sitting on a telephone pole. Meanwhile, I'm over in the passenger seat going, the road, the road, the road, watch the road! So, fortunately for my mom and myself, we never ended up as roadkill. But roadkill is kind of where all this begins for me. Because I really learned how to observe the world by watching my mom pick up roadkill off the side of the road and take it to her freezer, and then she would take it into my little elementary school and have, boom, impromptu biology lesson. Now, I was 6 years old at the time, and when you're 6 years old, dead things are kind of amazing. And I thought there was nothing cooler than this roadkill the stick we had going on. Because when you're 6, you see a dead squirrel on the ground, and you're like huddled up with your little friends, and someone says, you should poke it with the sticks. So someone pokes it with the sticks, and then it moves, and then you go, ah, because it moved, and then, well, obviously it moved because you poked it with the stick, but when you're 6 years old, it could be the zombie squirrel apocalypse for all you know. So the only thing better than dead animals, in my mind, was dead animals delivered to your doorstep. Now, we had 2 cats, and that's exactly what they did. I don't know if you guys have had cats that have done this, they are indoor-outdoor cats, they go roam around, and then here they come, they meow out the door, and then you open the door and they're sitting there, and then there's a little dead woodland creature next to them, and then they of course are like, here's your dead woodland creature, and then they go on inside because they want to eat the actual cat food. So this was science fair time in 1st grade, and so I knew immediately what I wanted to do my science fair project on. Animals that my cats catch. That was the title I came up with back then. If I were titling it now, I would probably call it something like The Feline Decimation of Charismatic Mini-Fauna. So I have some really vivid memories of the science fair project. So the cats, over about a month or 2 months, they brought in 4 little animals. There was the chipmunk, 2 voles, and a mole. Now, I thought the chipmunk was, really small. I wasn't expecting to be that small, because I knew chipmunks, okay? Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers was on every single week, and they flew this airplane blimp thing, and they had to be bigger than like 3 inches to fly that thing, right? And then there were the 2 voles. I had no idea what the fuck a vole was. They looked like mice. I learned that they are in the same subfamily as lemmings, which probably explains why there are 2 of them. The second one jumped after the first one in front of the cat. And then there was the mole, which was my absolute favorite because it had really soft fur. Now, if you held the chipmunk, it had kind of bristly fur. And if you had the voles, they were also really coarse. But the mole, well, let me put it this way. If that thing hadn't been 2 inches and frozen, I would have cuddled with it every single night. The fur was that soft. I wanted to pet this thing all the time, and I would actually sneak into the refrigerator where we kept it, unwrap it in the saran wrap, pet it, and then close the door real fast because I knew I wasn't supposed to touch it because dead things, right? So the science fair comes, and I have my poster, and there's the picture of the cats and the picture of the garden, and there's a little histogram that says 1 chipmunk, 2 voles, 1 mole. And then there's the dinner plate right out front, and with the 4 little bodies on it, and covered in saran wrap. And I was supposed was to stand there, right, to show everybody my project. And I'm 6 years old, right? Asking a 6-year-old to stand still is like asking the sun not to shine. So as soon as my mom wandered off to go see what my sister was up to, because she was at the fair too, I would just like take off the saran wrap and pet the little mole. Because there's my buddy, the mole, right there. And then, you pick the mole up and you pet it. Because this is the really great part, because you can hold it now. And then people started coming by, and this like Hannibal Lecter wrote Pat the Bunny. Would you like to pet my mole? It's really soft. So some kids did, some kids didn't. A lot of parents gave me funny looks, and some people came back for seconds. And then my mom comes back and she gives me this look like, what the fuck are you doing? Except a little bit nicer than that. And so I have to wrap it up again and set it down, and then she sends me off to wash my hands because dead things. And then she hangs out with me for a little while. But then she goes away again. So off comes the saran wrap. But this time I know to watch out for the adults. I do get caught a couple more times, but it's all rinse and repeat. I just keep, you couldn't stop at the mole. My friend the mole was right there and he wanted to be pet. So this is what I really got out of this science fair project was, moles are really awesome. And I want stuffed animals that are made of moles. I don't remember if I had any actual conclusions or anything like that. I'm fairly certain my teacher was not thinking that fondling dead creatures was what she meant when she said hands-on activities. But fortunately for me, this topic of research has not been left unstudied. 2013, there were a group of researchers at University of Georgia who put little cameras on house cats, see where they went and outside, and it turns out that first of all, they did not cite my science fair project. And second of all, they found that house cats will only bring back about a quarter of the things that they killed. So this means I could have had 16 animals on my plate. I could have had 3 more moles. 4 total, 1 for each finger. So my science fair project is pretty much the end of my mom picking up the roadkill. I think she was afraid that I would get the squirrel in the freezer next, but the squirrels are kind of like the chipmunks, their fur isn't nearly as soft. And so then life returned to normal for a while, until the beaver. Yes, my mother did pick up a roadkill beaver that was on the side of the road. Didn't fit in our freezer, so it actually had to go in the garage until she found a taxidermist. And sadly, the taxidermist never returned it to us. So that was the sad end of the roadkill saga of my childhood. Thank you all very much.